This series is designed to help you prepare for the Cybersecurity Principal Architect, Business Applications Architect interview. In this video, we'll cover questions 1 through 50, focusing on strategic leadership, enterprise security design, IAM, and cloud security. These questions will help you build confidence and structure your responses. Let's dive in. Part 1. General and strategic questions. 1. How do you align cybersecurity strategies with business objectives? I begin by understanding the company's strategic goals and ensuring our security roadmap supports those goals through risk reduction, operational resilience, and regulatory compliance. I collaborate closely with business units to embed security into digital initiatives without slowing innovation. 2. How does security support business innovation? Security acts as an enabler by creating guardrails, not roadblocks. I implement automated controls and shift-left practices that let developers build securely with minimal friction. 3. How do you influence decisions without direct authority? I take a consultative approach backed by threat intelligence, compliance needs, and business impact. By aligning security with strategic outcomes, I earn stakeholder trust and influence decisions effectively. 4. How do you build collaboration across technical and non-technical teams? I foster collaboration through regular cross-functional meetings, clear communication in business-friendly terms, and use of visual aids like architecture diagrams and risk heat maps to bridge understanding. 5. How do you evaluate new technologies for security impact? I evaluate new technologies based on business alignment, architectural fit, and the evolving threat landscape. I often run pilots in low-risk environments and assess them using metrics such as detection capability, performance impact, and compliance coverage. Part 2. Security architecture and design. 6. What's your approach to layered security? I apply a defense in-depth strategy with multiple layers: perimeter controls, network segmentation, application security, IAM, endpoint protection, and detection response mechanisms. Each layer is continuously monitored, tested, and optimized. 7. How do you ensure architectural consistency? I maintain reference architectures and reusable security patterns aligned with frameworks like TOGAF and SABSA. These are distributed across teams and enforced through governance and architecture review processes. 8. How do you integrate security into enterprise architecture frameworks like TOGAF? I map security domains into TOGAF's architecture layers and embed security controls in both baseline and target state models. I also participate in the architecture review board to ensure alignment. 9. How do you identify and fix architectural gaps? I conduct security architecture assessments using threat modeling, configuration reviews, and stakeholder interviews. Findings are prioritized by risk and addressed with actionable remediation plans and assigned ownership. 10. How do you define baseline security requirements? I define requirements based on system classification, e.g. high risk, regulated, applicable standards, NIST 853, ISO 27001, and threat models, ensuring a consistent minimum control set across systems. Part 3. IAM and cloud security, primary focus areas. 11. How do you design enterprise IAM in hybrid environments? I build a unified identity plane across cloud and on-prem environments using Azure AD, SCIM, SAML, and OAuth. This includes centralized authentication, SSO, and enforcement of least privilege via RBAC and ABAC. 12. How do you ensure consistent access governance? I implement identity lifecycle management, automate provisioning, deprovisioning with tools like SailPoint or Azure Identity Governance, and conduct quarterly access reviews to maintain proper access controls. 13. How do you implement least privilege at scale? I use RBAC and ABAC models, enforce just-in-time JT access, and conduct regular entitlement reviews. Tools like Microsoft PIM help manage privileged access across the enterprise. 14. How do you manage cloud security posture? I leverage CSPM tools like Prisma Cloud and Wiz to continuously monitor for misconfigurations. I also integrate policy as code with IAC pipelines to enforce compliance pre-deployment. 15. What are the key IAM challenges you've solved? I consolidated multiple identity providers into a federated platform, enabled enterprise-wide MFA, and streamlined onboarding, significantly reducing risk and administrative overhead. Part 4. Security tools and practices. 16. How do you choose the right security tool? I evaluate tools based on scalability, integration, usability, vendor support, and alignment with control requirements. I always pilot new tools before organization-wide deployment. 17. How do you monitor database access securely? I deploy database activity monitoring (DAM) tools to track privileged access and sensitive data queries. These logs feed into the SCIM for real-time analysis and response. 18. How do you defend against DOS attacks? I use WAFs, rate limiting, CDNs, and behavior analytics. In cloud environments, I rely on managed services like AWS Shield and Azure DDoS protection for automatic mitigation. 19. What's your EDR XDR strategy? I implement behavior-based platforms such as CrowdStrike or SentinelOne, configure detection rules using MITRE ATANK mappings, and integrate with SOAR platforms for rapid response. 20. Where do you place firewalls in modern architecture? In addition to traditional perimeters, I deploy firewalls for internal segmentation between cloud VPCs and at the container workload level to secure east-west traffic. Part 5. Security reviews and risk management. 21. How do you run architecture security reviews? I conduct architecture security reviews in collaboration with system owners, architects, and business stakeholders. I evaluate system designs against established security standards using threat modeling to identify attack vectors, assess third-party exposure, and validate control effectiveness. These reviews include cloud configurations and data flow considerations. 22. How do you prioritize security risks? I use a combination of CVSS scores, business impact analysis, likelihood of exploitation, and maturity of compensating controls. Risk matrices help communicate priorities to stakeholders and align remediation efforts with critical timelines. 23. What threat modeling methods do you use? I use Stride for application-level threats and PASTA for systemic, business-level risk. I engage developers and architects in collaborative sessions early in the design phase. Threat models are documented in Confluence or security wikis, linked to mitigations, and reviewed periodically or after major changes. For high-risk assets, I incorporate attack trees for deeper analysis. 24. How do you integrate legacy systems securely? I use network segmentation, proxy isolation, and secure API gateways. When native controls are lacking, I apply compensating controls such as endpoint monitoring, access logging, and external authentication wrappers. 25. How do you manage exception processes? Security exceptions are tracked in a GRC platform with assigned owners, justifications, and expiration timelines. I enforce a formal risk acceptance process, require reapproval or closure before expiration, and report metrics to governance bodies to ensure accountability. Part 6. Frameworks, governance, and compliance. 26. How do you use TOGAF in practice? I align security architecture to TOGAF's ADM phases, embedding security controls across business, application, data, and technology layers. This ensures traceability of controls from design through delivery. 27. How do you ensure compliance with NIST ISO? I maintain a control framework that maps to NIST 853 and ISO 27001, assign control ownership, and integrate compliance checks into change management and risk assessment workflows. 28. How do you embed security in Agile DevOps? I integrate automated security tools, SAST, DAST, container scanning, into CI/CD pipelines. I enforce security gates for merges, deployments, and use policy as code to validate configurations early in development. 29. How do you manage reusable security components? I maintain shared libraries of vetted security patterns, IAC modules, and templates. These are documented with usage guidelines and versioned for traceability. Feedback loops and usage tracking help improve adoption and prioritize enhancements. 30. How do you prepare for regulatory audits? I align controls with audit requirements, conduct internal readiness reviews, and simulate walkthroughs. I ensure all policies, procedures, logs, and evidence are well documented and readily available. Part 7. Innovation and emerging tech. 31. How do you evaluate new security technologies? I run pilot programs based on identified gaps and success criteria. I assess feasibility, performance, detection efficacy, integration, and vendor support. If validated, I build a business case, implementation roadmap, and training plan. 32. Share an example of security innovation you led. At a prior role, I led the rollout of XDR across endpoints to replace multiple legacy tools. It improved detection coverage, reduced false positives by 40%, and shortened investigation times by 60%. 33. How do you measure innovation value? I track metrics such as MTTD, false positive rates, workload reduction, and control coverage. I assess alignment with business goals and report ROI in quarterly innovation reviews. I also monitor user adoption and support overhead. 34. How do you secure AI/ML systems? I secure AI/ML pipelines by protecting training data, enforcing access controls, monitoring inference usage, and validating model outputs for drift or bias. I review third-party ML libraries for supply chain risks. 35. How do you build a future-facing security roadmap? I align the roadmap with emerging threats, regulatory shifts, and business strategies. I collaborate with IT and business leaders, prioritize based on risk and impact, and include milestones, refresh cycles, and emerging practices like zero trust and AI governance. The roadmap is reviewed and updated quarterly. Part 8. Integration and interoperability. 36. How do you integrate mainframe security with the cloud? I establish IAM bridges using SAML or OAuth for authentication, enforce access controls at API gateways, and centralize logging for unified visibility. Legacy systems are isolated behind secure proxies to limit exposure. 37. How do you secure third-party SaaS integrations? I enforce SSO via SAML or OIDC, automate user lifecycle management using SCIM, and require vendors to comply with our security policies, such as encryption at rest, in transit, and secure SDLC. Contracts include SLAs for incident response, and I validate posture through SIGI questionnaires or third-party audits. 38. How do you protect APIs? I enforce strict schema validation, token-based authentication, mutual TLS, rate limiting, and anomaly detection. All APIs are registered, governed through access controls, and tracked through their lifecycle. 39. How do you manage encryption keys across systems? I use centralized key management systems, KMS, with automated key rotation, granular access policies, audit logging, and integration across cloud and on-prem environments for consistent lifecycle management. 40. How do you secure mobile access? I enforce mobile device compliance using MDM solutions, apply conditional access policies, and leverage containerized apps with remote wipe. For enterprise apps, I use secure SDKs, identity federation, and ZTNA to reduce the mobile attack surface. Part 9. Lifecycle and audit readiness. 41. How do you manage the lifecycle of security tools? Each tool has a designated owner, lifecycle roadmap, and periodic review for effectiveness, cost, and integration. Sunset criteria are defined, and outdated tools are phased out only after validated replacements are in place. 42. How do you measure control effectiveness? I track KPIs like detection rates, false positive ratios, uptime, and alerting speed. I run regular control self-assessments, red-purple team tests, and map incidents to control outcomes. Results feed into quarterly maturity reviews and continuous improvement plans. 43. How do you phase out legacy controls? I use a phased approach with parallel testing, rollback capabilities, stakeholder training, and validation checks. Controls are only retired after successful replacement and policy updates. 44. What governance models do you use? I establish review boards, security councils, and domain-specific risk groups. These bodies oversee new designs, evaluate exceptions, and ensure alignment with enterprise risk appetite and policies. 45. How do you maintain decision traceability? I log architecture decisions in a centralized version-controlled system, e.g., Confluence or Git, including context, rationale, and impact. Decisions are linked to risk registers, solution architectures, and governance reviews to ensure transparency and accountability. Part 10. Incident response and posture management. 46. How do you build security for incident readiness? I embed detection and response capabilities in the architecture, including isolation paths and alerting mechanisms. Readiness is validated through red team exercises, tabletop simulations, and alignment with business continuity plans. 47. What's your role in post-incident response? I lead technical root cause analysis, coordinate containment and recovery efforts, update controls, and drive architectural improvements. I also facilitate executive debriefs, lessons learned reviews, and ensure compliance with reporting requirements. 48. How do you prepare for audits? I maintain audit readiness through clear documentation, assigned control ownership, and automated evidence collection. Internal readiness checks and mock audits ensure preparedness before formal assessments. 49. How do you maintain continuous readiness? I use compliance as code, automated monitoring, and real-time dashboards to detect control drift or failure. Periodic self-assessments and alerts keep control owners accountable for timely remediation. 50. How do you ensure remediation is completed? Findings are tracked in a GRC or issue tracking system like Jira with assigned owners and due dates. Dashboards monitor progress, send alerts, and escalate overdue items. I validate closure through follow-up tests and audits to confirm effectiveness. That's it, our Cybersecurity Principal Architect interview guide. These 50 strategic and technical questions are designed to help you stand out in high-level interviews by showcasing your leadership, architectural expertise, and governance skills. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more cybersecurity interview prep content.